Okay, picture this. 50 of the world's biggest streamers, $1 million in cash, and one very simple rule. The last person to leave wins. MrBeast streamer competition, it wasn't just a game. Oh no, it was a social experiment, and it was designed from the ground up to create pure, manufactured chaos. So let's break down exactly how he did it.
So that's the real question here, isn't it? How do you get a room full of friends, rivals, and collaborators to just systematically turn on each other? Well, the formula MrBeast used is actually pretty simple, and it all starts with the environment itself.
You trap them. That's it. The whole thing is basically a social experiment dressed up as a game show. And the arena? It's not some big stage. It's a high-tech cube where that prize money is always right there, looming over them. It's designed to crank up the pressure and the paranoia from the very first second.
Right, so let's start with the cube, because the moment those streamers walked in, the pressure just started warping everything, and it led to some pretty immediate paranoia.
With that one line, MrBeast sets the tone. He's not just the host, he is the architect of their confinement, and everyone in that box knows he's the one pulling the strings. The game hasn't even officially started, and the mind games are already in full swing. You know, human nature just kicked in almost instantly. When you're faced with that much uncertainty, paranoia spreads like wildfire. We saw alliances, like the famous Spanish alliance, pop up not really out of friendship, but out of this primal need for safety in numbers. Everyone was trying to figure out what was coming next, just balancing their strategy with pure, uncut anxiety. And the first big test, it wasn't about skill, it wasn't about endurance, it was a straight-up popularity contest. The paintball vote was so smart because it was designed to do one thing and one thing only: force every single person to publicly pick an enemy.
The rules were brutally simple, and that's what made them so effective. By making every player take one single public shot, MrBeast completely took away the ability to hide. Every single decision had a consequence that everyone could see, and that immediately set the stage for revenge.
And this is where the game theory gets really interesting, because you saw 4 different strategies pop up almost right away. You had people targeting the biggest threats. You had others immediately seeking revenge. The most popular move, though, piling on somebody who was already getting shot at, just hoping nobody would notice you. And of course you had the pacifists, trying to miss on purpose, just desperate to not make any enemies.
This quote from the video just sums it up perfectly. The logic broke down almost instantly to this simple loop of retaliation. You shoot me, I shoot you back. And it just created this cascade of little rivalries all across the room.
And the result of all that chaos? 5 streamers gone. The first cut was made, and it sent a very clear message to everyone left. Social maneuvering was going to be just as important as any other skill in this game. All right, the next challenge was a massive, high-risk gamble centered around a Lamborghini. But what made it so brilliant was that it was totally optional. It was designed to prey on the streamers' egos and their very unique relationship with their fans.
I mean, the risk-reward here is just genius. Players had to volunteer to win a car. Not for themselves, but for a fan. The catch? If you volunteered and lost, you were instantly eliminated. It was a test of nerve, generosity, and, let's be honest, a whole lot of ego.
So you can imagine, the decision is agonizing. On one hand, you have a really high chance of getting eliminated, you're trusting only your own internal clock, and you know people are trying to sabotage you. But on the other hand, the reward is huge. You become a legend to your community, you give away a supercar, and you create this incredible content moment. In the end, only 4 streamers were willing to take that bet.
And this is where the top-tier players really started to show their strategy. They used a tactic called comms. So while the players were blindfolded, their friends on the outside were secretly keeping time and feeding them information. It was a brilliant little workaround that just proved how powerful those alliances were.
This one quote just captures the entire lesson of the challenge. When one of the losers complained about being tricked, the response was just that simple. You should have made a friend. It proved that even in what looked like a solo challenge, your alliances were the thing that could make or break you.
So 3 more streamers are out. They paid the price for their gamble. The winner, Rebu, got to give a Lamborghini to a fan, and the field was whittled down to just 42 people.
So all of this was just building up to the biggest elimination yet. Gamers versus athletes. They called it the Great Culling for a good reason. The stakes were absolutely massive. Over half of the remaining players were about to get knocked out in one fell swoop. So every streamer had to make a choice. Do you think you're a gamer, or do you think you're an athlete? On the gamer side, people were pretty confident. You heard a lot of, "I know my strengths."
But on the sports side, well, the logic was sometimes a little shaky. As Fortnite streamer Nick30 admitted, he picked sports because he thought it was going to be something simple, like a push-up contest. That was a big miscalculation.
The sports challenge was revealed, a penalty kick shootout against the super athletic streamer Speed. But before they could even start, the craziest elimination of the entire night happened. Ludwig, who is a huge fan of Speed, got so excited to see him that he ran out of the cube to say hi. And just like that, he disqualified himself. It was a truly unbelievable moment.
And what about the gamers? Oh, they got the ultimate test. A battle royale in Fortnite, the very game that made so many of them famous. You could just feel the irony. They were put on their home turf in front of the entire world with everything riding on it. And this quote from Tfue just captures the biggest shock of the whole competition. Tfue, a legendary Fortnite pro, one of the best to ever touch the game, got eliminated. The pressure, the weird alliances, the pure chaos of it all, it led to one of the biggest upsets you could possibly imagine.
So after the dust finally settled from both challenges, only 20 people were left. The great culling was over, and the room was now filled with only the toughest, the most strategic, or maybe just the luckiest players. This was a huge turning point in the competition.
Now, with only 20 players left, the whole strategy had to shift again. For the very first time, they weren't competing as individuals anymore. The next challenge forced them into teams of 4, where entire teams would face elimination together.
And this created the ultimate dilemma. After hours and hours of paranoia and just trying to survive on their own, these super competitive streamers were suddenly forced to trust each other. The challenges up to this point proved that you needed both social skills and individual talent. But this new team dynamic? It was the ultimate test, showing how the game's design was constantly changing to create new kinds of pressure, forcing players to adapt or go home.